Welcome to the Maternal Web Podcast, a space for all things related to maternal health, pregnancy, and beyond. I'm your host, Stephanie Terrio. I am a labor and delivery nurse and a mother to 3 beautiful boys. Each week, we dive into inspiring stories and expert insights to remind us of the power that you hold in childbirth and motherhood. We're here to explore the joys, the challenges, and the complexities of maternal health. Every mother's journey is unique, and every story deserves to be told. Please note that this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider for medical guidance that is tailored to your specific needs. Are you ready? Let's get into it. Today we welcome Vanessa Gyan, a mother of 3 and a postpartum transition coach. Vanessa is here to share her 3 birth stories and discuss the birth experience for women in Ghana. She helps women who find themselves in difficult circumstances after giving birth in the hospital. Vanessa and I connected through family and friends when I lived and worked in New York City. I am excited and grateful that Vanessa has taken the time out of her busy schedule to sit down and chat with me about her personal experiences with pregnancy and childbirth, and the childbirth experiences of women in Ghana. Vanessa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I was reading your article in About Her Culture titled From NYC to Ghana, Why Vanessa Gyan Knows She Made the Right Move. I like to begin our episodes with a backstory so our listeners can learn about you before you became a mother and the person you are today. Can you share with us who Vanessa Gyan was before you became a mom of 3 and what motivated you to move from your childhood home, NYC, to Ghana?
Okay, so before I was a mom of 3, I was living in New York with my family, my mom, my sisters, my bonus dad. Went to school in New York. I studied TV radio communications at Brooklyn College, and I was a working, growing, blossoming woman. I've worked at everywhere from pharmacies, and as I got older, like Century 21, Macy's. I enjoyed working. I've always enjoyed working, so that's always been number one. I love making my money. I love making my own money. So I was always working, even while I was in school. But I always envisioned, even where I am right now in life, I envisioned it from a very young age. I wouldn't say it was going to be in Ghana, but everything that I am doing from when I was very young, it was already what I wanted it to be. I am a go-getter. I love giving back. I love my family. I love my tribe. I love on them really hard. But yeah, I'm a New York girl. I wasn't born in New York, but I was raised in New York from the age of 8. So I say I'm a full New Yorker. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the decision why you decided to move to Ghana.
So it's so interesting because it was never on any of my vision boards. It was never a thought in mind. The last time I had been to Ghana, I was about 7 years old, and it was for 7, 8 years old, my grandmother's funeral. And I hadn't been back to Ghana throughout my childhood. And it was 2012. There was this hype, like, come to Ghana. Ghana in December is it's the time. Like, you're gonna enjoy it. It's like a party central. And I was like, okay, let me just go there. It was supposed to just be a holiday. Came for about a couple of weeks. I think it was 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And I really enjoyed myself. At that time, I had already gotten my degree, obviously, at Brooklyn College. I was already working in the media space in New York. So I had the knowledge, I had the education when it comes to the media space. So when I got to Ghana, they're like, oh, Vanessa, why don't you see if you can get a job here? Like, why don't you try to make that transition here? And I didn't even hesitate. I was like, you know what? It's a cool idea. I felt like the media space was booming. It was now evolving in Ghana. With my experience, why not try? And if it didn't work, I could always go back to New York. That was never an issue. So, yeah, that Christmas, I was like, okay. I was introduced to the owner of a TV station who promised me a job. Now, obviously, when someone promises you a job, you're still shaky. It's like, no contracts were signed, but I had faith because it was a family friend. And that was it. I went back to New York and my stuff was packed up and I was on my way to Ghana to see what life was going to look like. And almost 11 years later, I am still here.
Loving life.
Yes, New York is me, but Accra, I think it's something where it's 11 years. I wouldn't say it gets, I don't know how to, I love the fast paced life. That's something that here's very slow. Like everything is dragged. So I try to keep a balance. I feel like when it comes to, let's say, my workers, I try to let them pick up their speed. Because for me, I think about what if you decide to transition out of Ghana? You can't have this like slower mentality. You're gonna have to get things going and be on the go and really, you know, it's slow here. But even in the slowness, there's some type of like peace. It's like weird to explain the balance, but there is this peace in it.
Now, transitioning our conversation into
hmm
motherhood, did you know you
hmm
always wanted to be a mom?
So I always knew I wanted to be a mom. Now, did I think a mom of three? No. And all my cousins can testify to this. I always said I would have one child. One child, it'll be a girl and she'll be just a mini version of me. And that's, I'm fine with that. But no, that God had other plans. And I'm grateful because my three children are amazing and they've helped me grow into the woman I am today talking to you.
Tell us about the first time you found out you were pregnant. What did that look like for you?
I was like, whoa, okay. But at the same time, I was at an age where I didn't feel like I cannot take on this opportunity, like this changing my life. I knew that it was the right time. It was the right time for me. And yeah, so I was very happy. I always had this mindset that once I get to a certain age, and a certain point in my career, the kids would come and I would be very joyful. It wouldn't be a regret. I wouldn't feel like my child is coming and now my career is over. I feel like it fell into place really well. So I was happy, yeah, when I found out.
So, for your first child during your pregnancy, did you receive the prenatal care in Ghana or in New York City?
No, so I did my 7 months in Ghana.
Hmm.
And then I traveled out to New York. So the 7 months it was in Accra. It was at a private facility. But even in the private facility, I saw like little gaps in the system. And that's because when I was doing my many jobs in New York, there was a time when I actually worked at a hospital. So I had, firsthand experience of how the maternal health sector was. Nowhere is perfect, obviously, but I feel like just little things like showing compassion, more compassion. It shouldn't be you're just a number when you go and see your doctor. You should be able to sit and have a conversation and feel comfortable. It could have been just a one off for me for that first situation. But even like a pamphlet, something to read, little like samples of like diapers, those things, it excites you. It gives you like this joy. I just found it to be so like cold. Like there was no emotion between myself and my healthcare practitioner, even though she was recommended as like one of the best in Accra. And I guess the service itself, her check-in, making sure everything is good, okay, but I felt like there could have been more compassion. From my first to my second, the compassion did change. So I guess maybe maybe that was her personality. I don't know.
So 7 months come along and then you travel to New York. Okay. And then while you're in New York, are you staying with family?
Yes, I was staying with my mom and my youngest sister at the time. She was at University of Maryland. Wow, time flies. Yes. So yeah, and I found, how did I even find my GYN there? I think I like Googled. I
Mhm.
can't even remember, but someone recommended, I don't remember, but it turned out he's from Ghana. And when you go at 7 months, a lot of facilities do not want to accept you because you're late into your pregnancy. They usually like you to be a part of the facility for long term. But because he was Ghanaian and he saw me as like a daughter, he was like, okay, we'll take you in. As long as you have like all your files up to date, we'll take you. And I did the last couple of months of my prenatal care there.
For your delivery, did you wait to go into labor or were you induced?
So first time around, I waited and went into labor. Naturally, I started contracting, went to the hospital. They're like, oh, you're 1 centimeter. Please go back home. It got worse throughout the day. I was like, I'm going back again. Went
Hmm.
back and they're like, you're still 1 centimeter, but you're still in the system. Like they hadn't checked me out.
Yeah.
So you might as well, like, you can stay, like, whatever, like, go, let's get her a bed because obviously she's going to keep coming back every hour on the hour. But also my mom works at Downstate Hospital. That's where I gave birth. Obviously they knew her. So they made sure I was like comfortable, but not only me, because when I see other moms from over the past years who are there, they make every woman feel very comfortable. So yeah, I was admitted and yeah, I pushed through. It was because we haven't gotten to the other two, but this was like the mildest experience of childbirth for me. It was, even the whole pregnancy was very easy. Obviously, that was almost 8 years ago. I was much younger, but it was a very smooth pregnancy and a smooth delivery.
Who was with you when you delivered?
So it was my sister was with me. So my mom was there for the early portions, but then she went home to rest and then my sister came. She was there. She cut the umbilical cord of my first son.
I love when I have patients and sisters and mothers. I love when there's like that feminine energy in the room. It's magical.
It really, really is. It really is.
Okay, so you had a nice, smooth first delivery. Did you have an epidural?
I did. I got an epidural at 7 centimeters. Just couldn't go anymore. I was like, whatever it is you need to do to like let me calm down, just do it. So yes, I did have an epidural at around 7 centimeters.
Do you remember how long you pushed for?
It wasn't long.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what would you say is long?
I would say like 3 hours is a long time.
Okay, no, it was way less than, maybe it was like from when they said, okay, let's go. It had to be like an hour or less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember if you were intact or you had any tearing?
I did rip. I think they gave me 2 stitches.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah, 2 stitches.
So did you have a boy or a girl?
Boy, Aaron.
How much did he weigh?
He was 7 pounds, 8 ounces.
Okay, that's a good, nice, healthy baby.
Mm-hmm.
And then how was your recovery? How long did you stay in the hospital?
I think it was 2 days. And then I went home and recovery was smooth sailing in the sense of like I was up as if I hadn't given birth. It was really smooth sailing for me the first time around. Yeah.
Giving birth over here in New York, did you miss Ghana? Like, were you ready to get back or were you like, I
No.
want to stay here for a little bit?
In general, when I'm in New York, I love being in New York. I know eventually I have to come back, but I'm not rushing to come back. I soak in all that I can. And with the baby, I waited 3 months. So I made sure we did like all the appointments up until 3 months before we came back to Ghana.
We we pause this episode for a quick message from our sponsor. At Maternal Wealth, we aim to ensure that you have access to the best and the most appropriate care. That's why we created a maternal healthcare provider database. Maternal health providers can easily create profiles to promote their services and business, helping to increase access for those seeking their care. This is a one-of-a-kind database that offers a new and exciting way for women to search for and find maternal health providers near them and tailored to their specific needs. Profiles feature badges that highlight various services such as TOLAC-friendly practices, all-female practices, LGBTQAI+ inclusivity, language options, access to vaginal breech services, and more. Additionally, be sure to check out our Not Your Average Birth course. In this course, I discuss the variations that exist in hospital practices based on policies, staffing, and budgets, all of which can directly affect your birth experience and outcome. How long did you wait before you're like, okay, I'm ready to do this again? I want another baby.
A long time. It was, Aaron is 7 and my middle is going to be 2. So there's a gap. There was a huge gap. And that was more because, I was a single mom after I had Aaron. So, I wasn't dating. It was just me and Aaron. It was literally I always thought that it would just be me and him for the rest of our lives. And I was very okay with that. But again, the universe had other plans. And then I met someone and then we have our 2 youngest now.
When you got pregnant with your second child, did you already envision you going back to New York City for the delivery?
Yes.
Or were you okay? So yes.
Yes, there was no doubt about that. I knew I would go back. Yeah, there was no question about that at all.
How was your second pregnancy? Was it similar to your first?
So the majority of it was very smooth sailing. When I got to New York, I did spot a bit, which made me very nervous. But when I went for my checkup, they didn't see anything wrong. They said I was fine. But then obviously now there's anxiety. You're checking every minute, is everything okay down there? But that was the only hiccup during my second pregnancy was the spotting, which it was only 1 day. And it was very light. It was like a speck. But I'm one of those people, a speck to me is massive. So I need to go and make sure everything is okay. Even though my uncle, who is a doctor, when we called him, he was like, I shouldn't worry. I shouldn't go to the hospital. Don't waste my time. But I did. I went. And luckily, everything was fine. But for him, they did scrape me. I was really tired at 36, 37 weeks. I was literally I am tired. This is too much. And my doctor kept saying, don't worry, we'll do I don't know the what's the term? I forgot where they scrape your membranes. So that
membrane sweep.
Yes, the membrane sweep. Yes. So he did that I think it was 38 weeks. And literally, I think it was 3 days later, I went into labor.
I wanted to say for anyone who's listening to the podcast and how you mentioned even a little bit of blood is a lot. Always just go get checked, right?
Yes.
Don't put it off because you just never know. And then you much rather go to the hospital, go to your midwife and have them check you out and say you're okay, as opposed to waiting and then you can't take it back if something was genuinely wrong.
Exactly. I absolutely agree.
All right. So you go into labor with your second. Are you going back to the same hospital or did you go back to the same hospital?
Okay. Downstate hospital, because my first experience there was lovely. And, my mom working there, I knew I would get, a nice room. They give you some VIP care when you work at the hospital. And my mom's been there for, I think, 20 years. Could be even more. Yes. So I go there, they admit me. I'm trying to remember. It was literally the same. It's so weird because my first and my second, it mirrored each other. A lot. Even the time of birth, they're both like four something. Even their dates are like weird. One is like not weird, but my eldest is July 7th, 2017, and then the middle is July 5th, 2023. Because what are we in 25? Yes. But yeah, I went into labor and natural. I don't remember if I ripped this time around. I can't remember. But yeah, it was smooth sailing also. Yeah, a bouncing baby boy. He was also about 7 pounds, like 8 ounces, 7 ounces. Yeah.
And then who was with you for this delivery?
For that one was, I think, my mom. Yes,
Okay.
because I remember Dr. Nichols, he was incredible. Like, he was so incredible. Because my OBGYN, he doesn't come in to deliver, but he has other doctors that come in to deliver. So he recommended Dr. Nichols, who was like incredible. And I remember like my mom talking to him, and I remember her being scared to cut the umbilical cord. Yeah. So my partner at the time was in Ghana.
Was your son with your partner at the time, or was he with you in New York?
He was in New York. So I'm that mom that my kids are everywhere with me.
Yeah.
They're like on my hip. So like if I'm going to deliver, we're gonna take you out of school a little early. You're gonna do your schoolwork in New York. Like they'll email it and we'll get back when we get back. That's me. Yeah. My eyes have to be on them 24/7.
So you had a nice smooth delivery with baby number 2. How long did you stay in New York City?
For him also it was 3 months. Yes. Yes. Made sure he got all the shots that he needed and everything, and then we headed back to Ghana.
I have 3 kids, and I'm just envisioning you on the plane with a 3-month-old and a toddler. Did you have some help, or were you by yourself?
I was solo, but you wait till the third story. That's when you're gonna be like, whoa. But yeah, no, it was just myself, Aaron, and Amir. My eldest has always been a little mature, so he wasn't like any struggle. And at that time, my middle was very calm at that time. Traveling with the both of them back solo, it wasn't difficult.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes.
That helps when the oldest, they're a little older, the
Hmm.
stereotypical older child.
Yes, yes, 100%.
All right, so baby number 3. Now this is where things get a little interesting.
Interesting is definitely the word to use.
How old was your middle child when you got pregnant with your third?
He was only 3 months. We had like literally just gotten back to Ghana, basically. Maybe a month after July, August. Okay, 4 months. And then we found out we're expecting again.
How was that for you to realize that you were expecting so soon after delivery?
We had spoken about back to back, but I didn't know it would be like back to back. Like, I didn't even get time to really breathe.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was like, whoa. But at the same time, it was like, okay, we can get it over with. And then I'm done. You know, it was like both ends of the stick.
I hear that. That like you think, okay, back to back is overwhelming, but I like how you say that. Just do it, have the 2 kids, and then
Hmm.
you're good.
Yes.
How was your pregnancy with your third?
Very tough. Okay, so what I forgot to mention with the first,
Yeah.
because of my age, they automatically had me on like progesterone, on the progesterone shots. I forgot to add that as just like a safety precaution. Going into my third, so the OBGYN that took care of me, my second in Ghana is who I went to for my third,
Okay.
because they are a fertility clinic. They deal with older, mature women. And I felt like, as someone who was in her late 30s, that was very important, someone who specialized in that. So found out I was pregnant, and my OBGYN was just like laughing her head off. But the first thing she said was, let's put you on the progesterone again, just to be safe. So she started that on me. We were fine. Everything was like quite smooth. Didn't have hiccups until one day in January. So 2 days before this one day in January, I had a doctor's appointment and everything was fine. I went to an event. I came back. My mom was in town still because she comes the holiday season. And we were in my room just like chatting. We're chatting, like laughing, gisting each other. And I kept saying, like, I feel like I need to like do number two. I
Okay.
feel like it. And she's like, okay. And then I'm like, okay. So, but then when I got up, there was like spotting on the bed. And I was like, okay. I started to just like have super anxiety.
Can I ask you, how many weeks were you at this point?
At this point, I was November, December, January. Okay, so I was probably just about 2.5 months, very early. So I'm like, oh, spotting. Oh my God. So then I'm like, I don't even know what to think. So as I'm getting up fully and I stand, like, it's just clots coming out. And I'm like, oh my God. And my mom is like, oh my goodness. So I'm just standing there because I don't know what to do, you know? So I call my doctor and she's like, this is odd because I literally just saw you, but I need you to get to the hospital. And it was around 8 p.m. And honestly, if you are in Ghana and you know our health facilities, saying you're going anywhere to go get checked up at 8 p.m., it's like non-existent. Like you can go to a health facility and there's no one there to take care of you. Luckily, where I was going that evening, the doctor who was on call, he knew how to scan. There's even doctors that don't know how to like properly scan. They have someone else come and scan. That's a whole nother story. So I'm standing there and at the same time, I'm like talking to her, but then I'm Googling pictures to see, oh my God, is this a miscarriage, you know? And the pictures look exactly like what's coming out, like clots. And I'm like, holy shit. So my partner, luckily, he came home that same time. He like rushes me to the hospital. And obviously, I'm like distraught. I'm like, oh my God, we've miscarried. Like how could this be? Like, I don't understand how this could be. We get to the facility and the nurses are just like, don't worry. Like, let's just check first, So the doctor comes like within like 2 minutes. We go into the room. He starts to scan and the sac is still there.
Okay.
So I'm like, let me breathe. So now he's like, we're putting you on extra progesterone. As it is, the progesterone makes you very nauseous. It makes you very lethargic. But now they're putting me on extra and he's putting me on strict bed rest until further notice.
Mm-hmm.
But a week later, I would have to head back to the facility to get another scan. So now I'm on strict bed rest with that time he was like 5 month old, my 6 year old at the time. And I'm just like, I have work to do. And I'm just like super stressed out. Like, what is happening? God, please, like, what is happening? A week later, I head to the facility. My OBGYN does a scan and she sees like a sack that's half empty. There's one full sack and a sack that's half empty. And she's like, the only thing this could be was that it was twins and one didn't, didn't stick. And as weeks went on and I had to go every week at that point to get scanned, the other sack just kept getting smaller and smaller. So I was still spotting a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but the other sack was fine. Like she was just chilling over there. But yeah, so basically it was a twin pregnancy and one didn't make it. But we didn't know that prior to this whole thing. I think she said also at that time we were doing, I think, the vaginal scans, and sometimes it doesn't pick up on everything. But then it came to a point where she was like, your cervix seems to be wide, like it wasn't like this the last time. So I'm suggesting a cerclage. Oh my God, what? A cerclage, getting that done in Ghana? Like everything to me was just like, this is not real. Like in Ghana, me get like, like because I do like maternal health work. There's things that for me personally, I'm like, in Ghana, like, should I risk it? Because I feel like it's still very risky. I spoke to my partner. I spoke to my mom. I spoke to my uncle, who's the doctor who's in New York. And he was like, it's a very simple procedure. And if they're suggesting it, recommending it, then go ahead. And so, yeah, we went ahead and I got the cerclage done in Ghana.
Did you have pain management for the cerclage?
Yes, I did. So I didn't feel anything. for many hours. So I was like in the hospital for so long because I tried to get up and my legs, like I almost like fell on my face because I was rushing. Like I'm just like, I want to go home. The kids are home. But yeah, I stayed for quite a while. I think it was like 8, 9 hours
Wow.
before
Yeah.
like, yeah, everything like wore off and we headed home.
Once you were home, were you still on bed rest?
I was still on bed rest until so the bed rest started in January. They took me off bed rest. It was like sometime in February. But even that, it was like still be calm. She kept saying like, V, I know you're a hard worker, but you're going to have to just relax. Don't overwork. Don't overwork. Just try to like relax. So I tried. I tried.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
hard. It's
it
hard.
really is. It really is.
So after you had the sarclage placed, did you have any more spotting or bleeding?
No, everything else was like smooth sailing. But of course, this anxiety was just still in me because it's like every day you just don't know. There was a point where I was like, should I go to New York earlier? Literally ended up making it to New York just in time.
All right. So how many weeks were you, more or less, when you came to New York?
So I got to New York at 28 weeks.
Talk to us about why you decided to come at 27 weeks, and then like what was the trip like for you with everything that's going on with your body and the pregnancy and having your kids? How was that for you?
Okay, so my sister actually flew to Ghana to fly back with me to New York because obviously I'm taking the boys with me also. And on the flight, I thought I saw spotting, and I rushed to my sister, and she's like, "Girl, there's nothing. Like, relax, like relax." But we get to New York, everything is fine, and at 29 weeks or just ending 28 weeks, I was home and I just felt water. And I'm like, I'm just like, this is not real. Like, am I in a movie? Like, what? This is too much for like one pregnancy. And it's go to the bathroom and the water's just gushing out. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm at my mom's house, but I like call her on the phone because now I'm scared to like get up. And I'm like, oh, can you please come to the bathroom? Because I didn't want to like give her anxiety as soon as she's woken up.
Yeah.
And this was around, I don't even know, maybe like 4 a.m. So she comes and I'm like, oh my God, like it's like there's water. I don't know if my water broke. So she like wakes up my stepfather and she's like, take her to the hospital. You know, she has to go to the hospital now. Luckily, the hospital it's literally 2 minutes from the house. So we didn't have to go far. And so we get there and they're like, oh, you've ruptured. We need you to do like a scan. So I go do the scan. I'm trying to, like, so much happened. I do the scan and they're like, the water around the baby was very low. So they're going to have to admit me. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I came to enjoy like the next few weeks in New York. I'm having a baby sprinkle. Like, there's so much. And now I'm admitted. And when they admit you, 99% of the time, they will not discharge you till you give birth. Like downstate is very, very, it's like a lockdown. Oh, wait, my second, I was admitted for like, okay, because I went in for the spotting, I was, wait, was it the spotting? No, this is what happened. Sorry. For my second, they gave me a shot, a steroid shot. It slowed down his movements and I got very scared. Yeah. So I went to the hospital and I don't like, I did my research after the fact of like, it could slow it down. Like you have to give like 48 hours and the baby just starts to, start moving around. But I was nervous.
Okay.
And because of that, because he slowed down, it triggered, them. And they admitted me for like, no, like 3 or 4 days. And my OBGYN called, tried to get me out because he was like, the baby, everything will start to pick up. The steroid shot is strong, but they literally were not letting me out. Eventually, I had to like advocate for myself for them to let me out because he was moving again. Like, your body when you're pregnant. Like, like I knew he was fine. Yes. So eventually they let me out, but obviously they let you sign like a waiver that if anything happens to you, you wanted to leave. So yeah, that was my second. Okay, back to the third. So I get admitted, they scan, they say the water around the baby is very low. They admit me. And from when the doctors entered, they basically let me know like, you're here until you give birth. So just prepare your mind, body, and soul. Obviously, I was devastated. I was like crying. And then they also had the NICU team come in because at 28 weeks, you're early. If you deliver, 28, 29, 30, 31, your baby's going to be in the NICU. So they had the team come in to talk to me about that. I was like devastated. Like, this cannot be real. Like, this cannot be real. But the staff was amazing, as I keep saying, very encouraging. For me, it was like, to be on bed rest there where, they have to come and like clean you up. Like literally, I wasn't even allowed to go to the bathroom. Like, I had to like have like the little, like, what do you call it? The little like potty type of thing. Call the nurse and like they would lift me to sit on. That's the strict bed rest they had me on because they wanted baby girl to stay in as long as she could. They wanted at least to pass the 30-week mark. So yeah, I was just there every single day. My sister would come, my mom would come. Like they didn't allow kids to come. So, the boys, I would FaceTime them. I was talking to my partner, but it was like just the wildest time of my life. Like I could not believe it was happening. And scary because I'm literally like, all right, you hear all these stories. Like you hear incredible stories. So yeah, every day you're just nervous every day. And every day when they would come in, they would check the water. They're just like, yeah, the water around her is still very low. So yeah, you're just here. You're just here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just here. They gave me the shots that would help her lungs just in case she did deliver early. And then at almost 32 weeks, I was just there. I was actually with my sister and one of my good friends, and I could feel some contractions, but I wasn't seeing it on the monitor. At this point, like I knew how to read the monitor and everything. Like I felt like I was a nurse. But I could feel the contractions, but they weren't showing up. So when I would tell the nurse, they were like, we don't see it. I'm like, but I feel something. Fine. My sister leaves. My friend leaves. It's about 6 p.m. And I'm like, nah, these are definitely contractions. Sorry. 3 days, 4 days before that, they took out my cerclage, which was the most painful thing ever because they don't medicate you for that. Yeah, they literally open your legs wide and take it out, and you literally feel every single thing. Luckily, the cerclage I think was just one stitch, so it wasn't a lot, but like it really hurt. So yeah, I felt the contractions. I spoke to the nurse and she said that she shifted the monitor on my stomach because obviously I'm being monitored 24/7. And they realized that, oh, there are contractions and they are coming. And so my doctors called in and the doctor that was like, well, when you're admitted, there's like three different doctors on rotation. So the doctor that was on call that evening, she came in and she was like, I think you should call like whoever you would want, in the delivery room with me. Mind you, she had been breached like from when I was admitted. A day before, she was head down. And the morning that I delivered, that morning before my sisters and them came, she was back to being breached. So I knew most likely I would have my first C-section. So they're like, call whoever. And so I call my mom and she's like, well, the boys, like, I can't leave the boys. And your stepdad's not home. I call my sister. She's like, okay, I'm actually going to the bar. Like she was going out with her friends. She was like, so when it's like closer in time, just call me because the bar is literally up the road from the hospital. And I was like, okay, cool. So they start to just prep everything, prep, prep, prep. I was 1 centimeter. And then I called my sister again. I was like, you need to like just make your way here because I don't know when I'm going to deliver. She did make her way to the hospital in time. And by the time they knew I was 10 centimeters. And now it's like, get her into the OR. Like, and now I'm like, oh my God. Like like because my first two pregnancies were I just didn't know. Like, I was just like, what? I don't know how I felt in that moment. There was like no emotion, but emotions. It was just like, God, please, like, just get me out of this safely, get my child out of this safely. Like, because you could hear the panic and see it in my doctor's face. Like, the baby's breached. She's a preemie. She's 10 centimeters. We need to get this baby out. They rushed me to the OR, and the anesthesiologist comes, and I felt the two first cuts when they started, because obviously, they're rushing, they have to start, and the medicine, it hadn't gotten anywhere in my body. I felt the two first, and I was like, oh my God, I feel it. And then I hear the anesthesiologist saying, you have to keep going because you got to get the baby out. And then the doctor saying, like, but she could feel it. He's like, just keep going. Like, so he's just pumping me. And all I remember next is that I was awake. And my first question was like, oh my God, how's my daughter? And they're like, oh my God, she's fine. And, she's at 30, almost 32 weeks, like she's breathing on her own. Like, she's on the lowest oxygen in the NICU, the lowest, like, and that's only precautionary measure. And I was like, oh my God, is she cute? You start to like, how's she cute? And they were like, she's so pretty. And I was like, okay, where's my sister? And they're like, oh, she wasn't allowed in because it became like they had to get the baby out. We don't have time to call your sister. And I was like, okay, but everything is fine. They're like, yeah. And then they were just stitching me back up, and I was just lying there, and yeah, eventually they rolled me back into my room.
Did you have general anesthesia? They put you to sleep?
They put me to sleep. I think at first they were trying to like not knock me out, but because of the circumstances, they were like, yeah, we got to get this girl asleep and let's just get things done.
And she made it to, you said 32 weeks?
She made it to, yes, just about 32 weeks, 31 and 5 days. And she was just under 5 pounds. Yeah, so she was quite hefty. So they kept asking, like, are you sure the timeline? Because they felt like she was a little bigger for her age.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I'm going based on Ghana. And the one prenatal appointment I had here.
How was your recovery having that kind of experience as opposed to like 2 vaginal deliveries that kind of were like smooth sailing? How was that for you?
So, okay, I don't even know, because shortly after even going home, my C-section area, like basically there was like fluids leaking.
From the incision?
Yes. So this was about just like a week after I went home, because I had seen my doctor, and he said everything looked fine, but they told me I could shower, but I think I showered too early, like a day after, the C-section. I think I should have waited it out a bit and just done like, like a wipe down for some time. That's what we are thinking happened. But yeah, oh my God, that was a nut. Like I got home, and obviously at that time I'm going back and forth to the hospital also because baby girl is in the NICU. And I remember this specific day, it was like walking was like tiring for me. And even when I went to the NICU, one of the nurses was like, is everything okay? And I was like, oh yeah. She's like, because you seem a bit slower today. And I was like, oh, everything is fine, not knowing there was a lot going on in my body. And that evening, I was like on the bed, and I just also feel like water coming from there. And it was like, I was like, what is happening?
Mm-hmm.
So again, rushed back to the hospital. And one of the doctors that was there throughout the time I was there, he was like, let me check and see what's going on. And he's like, yeah, it's almost an infection, but it's not yet. So you're going to have to come for wound care every single day. And I'm like, so now I have to be going to wound care, going to NICU. This is like insane. Wound care was like that night that he had to even he took the Band-Aid off, take out the gauze pads, clean and it was painful. It was painful. And I was like, so now I have to do this for how long? He was like, it could be like 6 weeks. Like, it depends on the healing process. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. Okay. All right, fine. So then at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go to stay at downstate, stay at their clinic for them to do everything for me, like the wound care since the baby's upstairs. I met this incredible Nigerian OBGYN. Even up until today, like I chat with her. She is incredible. So she realized that day that I went that I was not going to be able to handle that pain every day of cleaning.
Yeah.
I would not be able to. And she was like, well, there's something new that she saw one of her colleagues use. And with that, I would have to come once a week for them to change it out. And she was like, do you want me to try it on you? She's like, girl, basically, you're my guinea pig. But trust me, because I wouldn't do anything that I know would not work. And I was like, I am trusting you. And if it doesn't work, honey, I don't know what I'll do to you. So I then started going once a week for her to like clean it out. And it was a different type of gauze pad that she would insert. And so she would clean it. And then she would, and every week it got better and better and better. And it literally took about 8 weeks. Yeah. So even after like baby girl was discharged, because she only stayed for 30 days in the NICU, I still had to go, for wound care. At the end, she used like a matchstick to just make sure it's sealed like at the like properly. Oh my gosh, it was. But that took about 8 weeks of wound care. The doctor that delivered me, she claims when she saw me that, when you rupture and you do a C-section, this can happen at times. But I still feel like it was the fact that I was bathing too early and water got inside. And funny enough, I was talking about this the other day in the sense of like, I didn't show suffering in my face or of like what I was going through. And I say this because even when I was going to the NICU, and the nurses, they actually were like, they loved the fact that like I always went in there with like positive energy. I would always have like mascara and lip gloss on, like, because I felt like if I looked good, I can feel good and I can give good energy in the space that I was in. Because what I was experiencing was not easy. It was very traumatic, but I knew that I had a newborn to take care of, the boys to like get them back into, they hadn't seen me for so long also, making sure they enjoy the rest of their trip. So I never allowed it to show like no one would be able to see me and say, you've been through this, even till today. So when I even talk about this journey, people are quite surprised because they're like, but you don't look like what you've been through. And I said, I actually do like that because there's probably people who wish I did look like what I've been through, but I refuse. I refuse. But it was a traumatic experience.
It's a lot when you think about this is your third child who you had pretty close to your second. Then you're going through an admission antepartum. You're in the hospital for weeks.
Yes.
And you're away from your partner. You
Yes.
have an emergency C-section.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're having these complications. You're in pain. You have a child in the NICU. That's a lot on your plate.
It was a lot. And I think also, from day one, her name is Amari Rose. Her prognosis was always so positive. She was breathing on her own, and every day, every milestone she had to meet every single day, she met it, which was like, it just like warmed my heart. And like I would call in the mornings before I would go morning and evening. But then when I started the wound care, I was like, okay, I have to at least just go once a day. So I would like call in the morning, speak to a nurse, make sure she's good. And then afternoon, because this was the only time out of my 3 pregnancies that for the first 2 months, milk was coming. Like I was lactating. My boys, I had the hardest time breastfeeding. So they were both formula babies, like from the beginning. But baby girl was able to get strictly breast milk for the first 2 months, which made me very happy because that was very vital being in the NICU. And so that I was like, okay, the body just knew like, okay, you're going to have to do this for her because she needs it. Like at least, because the doctors were saying at least the first couple of months. And literally it was the first couple of months after that, it was like, okay, nothing was coming. Like nothing was coming. So she went on formula. But the formula was fine also, because if I was able to breastfeed, they were still going to put her on extra formula because she was a preemie. Yeah, so she ended up 2.5 months. She started formula, and yeah, she's now, I guess you could say, a formula baby like her brothers. But the first 2 months, I was actually able to pump enough for her to be fed every single day while she was in the NICU for the first month, and then when she came home, yeah, we continued a bit until I couldn't anymore.
It's amazing to hear how our bodies just do what needs to be done. Your
Yes.
body knew that this is what she needed.
Yes, yes. It was like, wow. And I also think the nurse was very patient with me when it came to teaching me, how to get the colostrum. Yes, even though the first days were like little drops, she was like, that's fine, just keep going. It's not pumping. Like, just, she taught me how to massage the boob and then like squeeze, like very patient with me. And that really helped a lot. The whole NICU journey, I praise the nurses so much because they made it a bit easier, like on days they saw I was tired, they're like, it's okay. Like, you could have just called and, we would have updated you throughout the day. Mommy, you need to rest. You do need to take care of yourself. She's safe with us. She is, but they just conversations with them, like they made it a bit easier, the support that they were giving. Yeah, and that's why I keep in contact with most of the nurses that took care of her, send pictures and updates so they can see that, thanks to them, being a huge role, she's thriving beautifully. When you look at her, you wouldn't even think she was a preemie, and she's 10 months. Yeah.
Were you ready to get back home after all of this?
I wanted to enjoy a bit more. I wanted to enjoy New York a bit more, which I did. And we came back in October. So what it was she was supposed to be born in August. And my plan was actually this time around to just be in New York for 2 months after I deliver. Because I felt like I've had enough, like I can come back. 2 months is fine. But obviously she was born in June. So we were there, but we stayed until October. So I still got to enjoy a bit and, have time with like my best friends. But yeah, I still got to enjoy New York outside of being a mother. That's what I should say. I got to still enjoy, some solo time with my best friends. I'm going for dinner, going for brunch, and like with my sister and my mom, and then still do things as a family with the kids. And then my partner was in New York at a point too. So yes, he was able to fly out. So, I still got to enjoy New York to some capacity.
And it was summertime too. So,
Yes.
summer
And
in the city is awesome.
it's so amazing. It's so amazing. Yes. And then we came back and I flew back with the kids, all three solo.
Oh my gosh. You
Yes.
are a saint.
So and the thing is that, so I didn't know I would have to buy my no, he was one at the time, a ticket, because now I had my daughter who would be the lap baby. So yeah, we ended up having to buy him a ticket. But I had her in the sling. I had the Duna stroller. So I had her in the sling. I had him in the Duna. Obviously, my almost 8-year-old, he's fine. And then on the flight, the Duna stroller turns into a car seat. So like had it on the chair and he sat, my son, the 1-year-old, sat in the Duna car seat, and then I had baby girl, but where we sat there was also the bassinet, where I could put her in at times also. And at that time, like I said, he was calm. He was calm. It wasn't too hectic until almost landing. It was like everyone wanted me to hold them. Like she wanted me, he wanted me. I was like, oh my God, let me hold you both. But it wasn't as terrifying as I thought it would be. But once we landed, I was just like, thank you, Jesus. Where's the nanny? I don't even want to see kids at this moment. Let me just give the nanny the kids. Let me just breathe.
I can't even
Yeah.
imagine.
It was wow. But I made it. And yeah, we're here.
I want to hear about your work as a postpartum transition coach and how you got into that, and then
how you're helping women in Ghana who've delivered in the hospital and how you help them to be discharged.
Okay, so I became a postpartum transition coach literally when my daughter was discharged from the hospital is when I took the courses online. When she would nap, I would, go online, do all my reading, take all my tests, like 3 a.m. feeds. That's when I was like still reading, doing my tests. And I felt like this was the right time because I was already doing the work. I was already doing the coaching for the past 7 years through my NGO, but I wanted to become certified. I wanted it to be more on paper. So that was just recent. That was last year. But it stems from almost 8 years ago, my prenatal here, what I saw, the gap in the system, and wanting to do something more for mothers in Ghana. And when my son was 3 months and we came back, while I was away, I was contacting different moms and mommy groups, like their experience of giving birth in Ghana. These are moms that were like born and raised in Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taken aback. And I was like, yes, definitely need to do something. I don't know what I want to do, but I just want to give back. I want like speakers. Like I just had this whole vision of what I wanted, but I didn't know exactly what it would look like. I bought a lot of like beauty products. I knew I wanted to give gift bags. And I knew there was going to be an event. So while away, after I had my first, I set up this whole event, was in contact with hospitals. People connected me to hospitals. And so we ended up connecting with Ridge Hospital, which is in Accra. And that's where we held our first event. We had speakers from moms to health workers speaking to the moms and the importance of prenatal, postnatal care, taking care of yourself, taking care of baby. We gave them gifts. And that was my first experience of like a mom coming and saying, I'm admitted upstairs and I don't have money to go home with my baby. And I was like, what? Like I've read it briefly, but like, so this is like, like it's real. So we gathered funds right there, myself and the speakers, and we paid her bill and she went home. And that's when I started asking, like, so are there more moms? And they're like, yeah, there's a lot more moms. This is like a normal thing. And I'm like, no, this is not normal. Like, it is not normal for, and some of the moms is like 6 moms in a room. There's no beds. Like there'll be like 3 beds and the other moms are like on the floor with their babies. And so it was like, no, we got to do our best. Like, obviously we can't save the whole of Ghana, but whatever we can do, we will do. So year round, we raise funds and we discharge patients from various hospitals. Now social workers have my number, so they do call me when they need the assistance. We hold baby showers for free. And that was something also that was very like, oh my God, baby shower, because our culture is very like, hide your pregnancy, do not celebrate your pregnancy until after. But, I grew up outside. I grew up in the Western world and we love to celebrate. We love baby showers. When I threw the first baby shower, the moms were just so excited. Then they were like, we're going to keep getting pregnant so you can have more baby showers for us. And I was like, no, no, no. No. But yeah, we host baby showers, we host educational sessions, we pay for the bills of the moms who, are financially, distressed. And we also host the fathers in the sense of educating them also. We don't leave the dads out. Find it very important that they are right there because there are circumstances where the mom is there and the man has just disappeared and she like literally never sees him again. But then we also try to lend our support to those women also. And this all stems from, my first pregnancy and being in a private facility and seeing the gaps. I was like, what about a public facility? Like the government facilities must be like, if I'm getting this privately and I'm paying so much, imagine. And so this year will be 8 years. We have a huge event in July that I'm excited about. Last year we had to slow things down because I was pregnant. The year before we had to slow things down because I was pregnant. So we are coming back bigger and better. And so July, we have a clinic that we've been working with for the past 3 years. And, this is the last shebang because we have to move. Usually we choose a different clinic every year. but they've needed our help and I just couldn't say no. But now July, we're going to have like a massive event for them with food, music. An NGO from the States has come on board. We're going to be doing like health screenings for them. Everything is for free. And, I've been trying to raise funds to get a few medical devices for them. And that's been quite difficult because they're very expensive. But this clinic specifically, they provide excellent care for the community. If they have these devices that they need, they can do so much more. So I'm still working on that for them.
What devices are you trying to get for them?
So like an incubator. So they have a makeshift incubator that one of the nurses made with like a lamp. And that's what they've still been using for the past 3 years. I don't know how they do it, but I did promise them an incubator. I have to, even if it's not like in July, I definitely have to make sure, I get it for them because this, like I said, the staff, they're well equipped, but without, the equipment. Like the staff themselves are very good at what they do, but the lack of equipment doesn't allow them to work at their full capacity.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been doing it for almost 8 years. I say we as if it's like a big team. It's literally myself. And I have a friend called Kojo. He comes on board like when it's almost time for the events. And I just reach out. In the beginning, I was financing it myself with like my family. And as time has gone on, I do the GoFund or I go on social media like Twitter. And I'll just say, this is what's happening, who can help. And then some of like Melcom is one of our biggest neighborhood grocery stores. They've come on board before. Gandor Cosmetics, they come on board every year with like tons of products, baby products and mommy products. So yeah, we're just, we're always seeking support because it's not easy. And I'm honestly, not to like brag, but I think we are the only NGO that has been doing this consistently. Like, people get up and do it maybe for their birthdays, like, okay, let me go and pay hospital bills, which is like incredible. But we have been doing it consistently for October, November will be 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
For those who are listening to the episode and if they want to support you and your cause, how can they find you and get more information?
Okay, so I'm on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Vanessa Gyan. So if it's Instagram is at Vanessa, Vanessa underscore Gyan. Instagram would be best because I see the messages right away and I can give all the info that is needed supporting my maternal health awareness initiative.
We will have all your social media when it's released. And if anyone wants to reach out and help for a good cause, this is one
Yes.
to support. I can't even
Yes.
imagine being in that situation and not being able to go home with your child. And I think, or not being able to go home, period.
Yeah. And even, sorry to cut you, there's been circumstances where a mom has lost her baby during delivery and, she's detained. They don't let her go home and they place her in a room with other moms who have delivered safely and with their babies. I remember that day when we saw it the first time, I was like, this is like, who can even, like, I didn't even understand. I couldn't, the pain, you see, I'm even speechless. I was just like, so she was, when we saw that, she was like on the top of the list. Like, even if she was the only one we would have discharged that day, depending on the cost, I would have made sure she went home.
You're right. There's no words. I just,
Mm-hmm.
your heart. It really, hearing that breaks your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing what you do. And thank you for helping these women. And personally, from one mom to another, I want to thank you for taking your time to come and chat with me and to share your story, to bring more awareness of what is going on with the women in Ghana. And it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really excited to hear the final edit. And of course, to my cousin-in-law for introducing us. I'm so grateful. It's funny because top of the year, one of the things on my list was to speak on what I do on an international platform and specifically an international podcast. So I get to check that off the list for this year already. So I'm just really grateful. I enjoy, I think you can tell, I just enjoy talking about, being a mom and my experience and, relocating and all of it. It's a pleasure being able to speak to you.
Thank you so much. I will be in touch. You should send me the dates when you're in New York City so we can get like a little family meetup.
Oh, that would be really fun. Definitely will.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to check out our social media. All links are provided in the episode description. We're excited to have you here. Please give us a follow. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, reach out to us via email at info@maternalwealth.com. And remember, stay healthy, embrace your power, and you got this.